we could also try calling, and then I could pay for it with my card.
Nice. Still at your mom's house, huh?
Yeah, we was at my house, then we went to Grove after I got off work, and then we came over here to have dinner with my sister and my mom and all of them. So
Nice.
Yeah, Grove Roots is open, huh?
yeah, finally. Yep.
No more crying now, no more tearing.
Yeah. Yep. So we were over there a little bit today. We saw Tommy there. There's a few people there. Not busy, but you know.
Well, but people are a little reluctant to come out still, I know.
Yep. Yep.
Or they're packing it in, mobbing the place, like a beach or something.
That's
Yeah.
true. Feast and famine.
Yeah, Morgan's there to keep it under control. So
That's good.
Morgan. Who's Morgan?
Morgan is one of the co-owners.
Oh,
So there's Morgan and then there's Joe. So
is Morgan about the same age as Joe? Is that young guy?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I met him
They
once.
look about the same age. So
Looks about okay.
I don't know.
Maybe in our mid to late 20s, I think.
Wife's in the pool. If you hear her in the background. So
Oh, okay. I was wondering where her voice is coming from.
you hear somewhere in there.
I threw my back out, so I can't sit in a chair.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I hope you get better.
At least the pool, the water has 0 gravity, so at least I'm not hurting myself this way.
Yeah, exactly. Did your shirt say beautiful?
Yes.
Oh.
Life is beautiful.
Oh. That's funny. His shirt says thank you.
Thank you. What else does it say?
Oh.
For all you do.
It's a-
So it's a thanks shirt for all the people who were working.
in her area. She had a bunch of shirts, so she gave me one.
We can just apply it to those people working through this pandemic now. Hey, Greg, are you going to put on your screen this time so we can see your beautiful face? Maybe your audio, too?
Hey, Roz, any word on you guys going back to work now that Universal's opened?
Universal is open?
No, just City Walk.
June,
Just like Disney Springs is open.
June 5th,
Oh,
you okay to open?
Yeah, June 5th, the Universal is opening June 5th.
we're not.
Or not.
They are making people sign waivers, though, that if they get COVID, that they can't sue Disney for getting it. It's their own risk. Come at your own risk.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You can still sue them, though.
Let Universal be the game picks first.
Well, you know, Disney Shanghai is actually their initial guinea pig because they opened, was it the 11th? So they've been open a week already.
I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Hey, I can hear you now.
Oh yeah, cool. I don't have a TV, I don't have a camera on my big screen, but I got a microphone.
Okay, well that's cool. That's better than having to try to switch back and forth to the chat and read.
Microphone off, means microphone's on.
Yes. strawberry colada.
Coolada.
Mm-hmm.
I heard Greg, and now he's muted again.
Yep.
Yeah, that one you definitely want to put out your stainless steel.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot to say.
There you are, Greg.
I was sitting there drinking my Baltimore Calliope, and I didn't want you to hear me plugging it down.
Oh,
Enjoying it?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Good. It looks like we've got a divider between Brian and I. That's what you call social distancing.
6 feet apart, see?
Hey, get back on your side of the barrier.
That looks like more like 2 fingers.
Well, it looks like Brian is, he still has a contractor there at his house. And of course, Garrick sent that note saying that he's got family issues. So I'm not exactly sure how many are going to show up.
I just sent, Tommy just called me and he needed the link again, so I just sent him the link. So
Okay.
he should be showing up in a minute. If not, this is recording again, so.
Okay. Well, I do have lots of notes to
Oh my Lord.
cover. Oh, you can tell I've been doing my homework.
Yeah.
What you don't know is it's just a bunch of words on a piece of paper and it makes no sense at all. So
As long as you understand it. What's up, Bill?
what's up, Bill?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
How about this?
I did have my video on. You'd see I was in my brew shirt.
Ah.
Got to get in the mood.
Who's Guy?
Great.
It's Greg
You are.
Yeldon.
Guy, a French guy.
Yeah.
There you go.
I forgot I was going to take mine. I'll miss out.
Yeah. What happens when you sleep though? No. Missed opportunity. Do that.
I still want to go back in there with my thing again. I think I got the whole.
I think I got it. It wasn't really broken much, just the chips. Pulled it out too far and let go, and it just broke the last inch and a half or so. So what happened? You pushing down, or were you just
I
pulled out and it
pulled,
pulled too far?
I pulled and I slipped in the back. I was putting a t-shirt in the back.
Yeah.
And when I pulled, it just went.
So it took too far out.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 402.
Damn, I thought that we were having dinner.
Tommy's in the house, or starting to be in the house.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I'm just, I have a meeting right now, so.
Let me, I'll send the invite out one more time for everybody so that, just in case anybody didn't have the link.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hey, I just saw you a few minutes ago.
Right? So how's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good.
All right, who all do we have here today?
Well, you
Someone ringing a bell.
Okay.
That's what it says.
I hear it buzzing. No? Oh. All right, so we got Tommy, Bill, Rosalind, Brian, me, Greg.
Yep, so far. Any
So
idea
far.
if Robert was going to attend or Tim or anybody?
I know, Garrett's issue and
Right.
I know about
And Brian.
Tim, think he might, and Brian's issue.
We'll be there in a little bit, I guess, when they get done with the car.
Do y'all want to give them a few more minutes or?
I'm going to attempt to send a reminder out if I can get this
Okay.
working.
So what you smoking on, Brian?
Actually, I was done. It was Flora E something. I can't remember. Something obscure, but it was pretty good.
I'm having
Now
a Liga Bravada.
Now I'm finishing with some caramel vanilla vape.
I'm having a Ratzilla by Liga Bravada, and I'm having a Louisville Sipper from Grow Roots.
Wow.
You got the same thing I got?
Louisville Sipper?
Yep.
Yep.
And what is that? What's a Louisville slipper?
Sipper. It is it's an old ale bourbon barrel aged.
Oh wow. Okay. Is the bourbon strong? I know he's done some before. The bourbon was really strong.
No, it's perfect. I mean, you really taste the bourbon, but it just goes subtle. It's not harsh like in an imperial stout. But it's really nice. It blends well. It's well blended.
Okay, well, seeing as it's 4:05, Tommy, do you want to go ahead and kick it off, or do you want to wait a couple more minutes?
Well, I'd like to give some people a few minutes, but we can go ahead and start discussing some stuff. I've got an idea.
I just text
And instead of just having the board that is 3 members, and there's 3 votes, because we're talking president, secretary, and treasurer, and that's 3 votes that decide the guild. I mean, Rosalind, because as far as concerned, you're a committee member, and I think we should have at least a 3-person committee that has 2 votes. That still leaves it at 5 votes, but you put a lot of effort into it, and you deserve a say in what the guild does.
Well, because I am also a member, so it's
You are, and I've got something that I think should be amended on the membership status as far as that goes too, in the bylaws. I think.
Well,
but we'll get to that when we get there.
I was telling Paul I have a lot of notes with regards to the bylaws and so on. But what I was figuring what we'll do is Paul had been asked to do the research on the 501c7, so maybe have him kind of talk about that first. Maybe spend like 15 minutes talking about what he found and researched. And then from there, move on to the bylaws, what everybody read and their thoughts about things. And then the final part to be other things to discuss, like some details. And then what I can do, I'll volunteer since I'm not working right now anyway, to consolidate the bylaws and then get it to somebody so that they can have it read over.
Once you get that, I've got somebody that can read it over. But right now, let me go get my pen and paper and pad so I can do some minutes on this meeting.
Okay.
Because I did leave that in the house.
Thanks.
Cat playing with a bell.
So, Bill, what have you been keeping yourself busy with?
Taking online guitar lessons, basically.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
How's it coming?
I'm good. Yeah.
Toughen up those fingers yet?
Oh yeah, I got the calluses going.
Good,
It's
good.
just getting the stretching thing going.
Yeah.
What was the date of our last meeting?
It was last week.
2 weeks.
No, it's weekend before.
2 weeks, yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I brewed in the week. Is there a meeting?
I guess I can look it up. And this is 5/23.
The 19th. The 19th was a Saturday. The 10th was a Sunday.
Yeah, it'd be the
But it was
ninth.
the weekend before
So-
last.
So,
May
yeah, it was
9th.
the 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9th. Yep, that sounds right. That way I can turn some minutes in and we can at least have a recording of some of the notes of the meeting.
Might as well get in the practice of it since we're going to have to do that for our official meetings moving forward anyway.
I believe it was recorded also.
Okay. But how do you submit the
Well,
recording?
at least the board meetings anyway.
Oh, you have to submit it to the state?
Well, I mean, not all of it, but yeah. But that's what Paul's going to talk about.
Sheesh.
So you ready for me?
Tommy, it's 4:09. Do you want to just go ahead and get going?
Let's just, we can't drag it on forever. Let's do it.
All right. Paul, you're up.
All right. Let's see where I'm at here. Here we go. All right. Can you all see that?
Yep.
What's going on?
All right. You want beer? Then pay your dues. I'm not saying you said so. I
Because
thought,
Roslyn's.
yeah.
I thought I was spammed.
I thought that was pretty cute, so I was like, I'm just going to throw that in there real quick. So.
You know, I think Tim could pull off that look if we gave him the right outfit.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. All right. So as a 501c7, as a social club in the state of Florida, we are tax exempt as long as we filed proper licensing paperwork / as long as we get certified by state of Florida as being a social club under the 501c7. We're exempt from all federal income taxation, as it says, as if we meet the requirements of the 501c7. We are generally exempt from tax, but social clubs are subject to tax on their unrelated business income, which includes income from non-members. So let's say Swan or Grove Roots or anything wants to give us money for, projects or anything, those would be, we would have to pay taxes on that money.
Even if they're members.
Even if they're,
Gray area.
yeah, that's a very, very, very gray area. I would be suggesting as if they want to help, then they give us grain and yeast and stuff like that, like they're already doing, barrels and stuff like that. Have everything under the table, more and less. So.
Because as far as the IRS will be concerned, they wouldn't be looking as an honorary member as an honorary member. They would be looking at a member as a dues paying member.
Exactly. So you would have to start charging them dues, which I don't think we need to do any of that. So.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'd say we pay the taxes if we have to on some stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's going to be very minimal.
So in addition to that, to being taxed on unrelated income, a social club may lose exempt status if it receives too much unrelated income, meaning the next line down, meaning that anything more than 15% of the club's income that's not coming from non-members, we could lose our exempt status. So that means, all the money that we come in from our non-members, from our members, would then start being taxed. So, so the IRS requires at least 65% of the club's income come from members' dues and fees, and less than 15% come from the club's income that comes from non-member sources like fundraisers and so on and so forth. So those are some things that might have to discuss later on when we come to start doing fundraisers and everything. More or less all of our fundraisers are going back to the people that we're fundraising for.
Right, we're not keeping any right now, but it wouldn't be out of the question that we could keep a small amount to pay for some of our expenses, right?
Exactly. Yep. Right. Yep. But it has to be less than 15%. So.
Okay.
Right. But I've still got a question on that as well. Say we do a benefit, and all the money that comes in, is from ticket sales. I mean, that does not, as long as we send it all to charity, that doesn't count as income, correct?
As long as we send 85% of that income to charity, then we're fine.
Where do you get the 85%? I'm thinking 45.
So when it says less than 15%, so less than 15% from the fundraisers. So we get 100% from the fundraiser, then 86% of it has to go back to the fundraiser. We only get less than 15% of what comes from the fundraiser.
Gotcha.
In the past, we just donated 100% anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm for carrying that on. I'm for, I buy my own grain, I brew my beer, and I do it because I can.
But Tommy, that's not what we're
looking for
talking
anything
about.
back.
For club expenses, some of the expenses are like the insurance that we have to pay to cover our members when we're at an event, or like if we have to buy tablecloths to cover up the table or things like that.
Newsletter, postage, whatever.
And I'm okay with that.
When it comes to an official club, it's just like a business, and the 501c7 is just like a business. You can't expect to give away everything. If you give away everything, you're going to die. So,
yep.
And that's just the hard truth that's coming from me. But I think a lot of our expenses that we're doing for the fundraiser, the people that are getting the fundraising money, they're getting a lot of money, and we're putting a lot of our own money to give them money. So
we're putting more than we ever will get back.
Yeah.
For the notes, I put 85% of charity must go to charity.
86.
We have expenses, except or insurance, ECT.
Yeah. I would
change it to 86, and you're good.
Yeah.
Okay. So noted.
Thank you.
So this might overlap a little bit, but to be part of the 501, to be part of a social club, the organization must be a club composed of individuals. Obviously, that's given. The club must be organized for pleasure, recreation, and other non-profit purposes. Meaning, we can't make a profit off the benefit of doing like fundraisers and stuff like that.
Yeah, we don't want no problems with the ATF, so I don't see that happening anyway.
Number 3 is basically the same thing I just talked about. Number 4, no part of the organization net earnings may ensure, what was that word?
Benefit of a private shareholder.
Yeah, it shouldn't benefit a private shareholder. So if someone's giving us money, or someone's trying to,
we have no private shareholders.
Exactly, pretty much that's one thing we don't have to worry about. And obviously, the organization is prohibited from discriminating on the basis of race, color, or religion. And that is a
Make it small.
federal rule more than anything else, so. All right, so incorporating a club makes its entirety onto itself. The corporation shields individual members and associates of the club from personal liability associated with the club's business or activities. So, you know, if something happens, we're covered. It also restricts the exposure of the club to just the club's corporate assets, thereby protecting the personal assets of individual members, meaning, so club members' personal assets are not at risk, and club members are not held responsible for incorporated club's debts or taxes. Meaning that we can't go to a club member and say, hey, you owe us your house, you owe us your car, or anything like that when it comes to liability issues. So,
I don't agree, Paul. I like your truck.
yeah. Now I know that
It's okay. I just waxed mine today.
So you're saying the only thing is really they could take is the $200 in our account.
Right.
Right, and if we have any like club-owned books or equipment or anything like that.
oh yes, yeah. I know that the AHA has their own insurance thing that we pay for, once a year. That
Yep.
allows us to pour at events and so on and so forth. This just covers us pretty much for everything that we do besides events. And it also covers us during events. So, but of course, if a member or associate commits a crime or injury, then the individual can be prosecuted under, criminal law, civil, so on and so forth. So.
And expelled from the club.
Exactly. And then, on top of that, Tommy, on being expelled from the club, that is, that will be up to the board or the committee. Yeah, the board, which,
The board and the committee. And we'll get into that in a little bit.
okay. So to get incorporated, we have to have an official club name that we have that's unique from any other corporation in the state, which I'm sure no one else has our name.
Yeah, nobody's the Lakeland Brewers Guild.
So we must have a board of directors that is separate from a, what you were talking about, Tommy, a committee.
Exactly, but we need both.
Okay.
But we'll get into that later. Let's just go through
Okay.
this and then we'll talk about that.
Yep. Number 3, have articles of incorporation, have bylaws for the club, which we'll be working on. Obtain an employer EIN number, employer identification number, basically for taxes. Yeah, obviously for the IRS. Number 6, identify your registered agent and the corporate address where your club can be contacted. So there will have to be a registered agent, which means the person that's going to be filling out this application will be considered the registered agent. And then all contact information that the state needs, which will be sending out information, we will need a mailing address and not a PO box.
That seems like a secretary's job.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank God I'm president.
The forms and information needed for a nonprofit corporation are typically minor. The main thing is to identify the club, its agent, person authorized to represent the club, and the contact information for the club agent, which is secretary. Articles of incorporation and bylaws may need to be filled at the time of application, which will. I'm hoping, or I would suggest, or I would hope that whenever we decide to go and do the application process, that every member that is elected to the board or committee is there and present to do that application. So that would be my suggestion. So maintain your corporate status. Florida requires nonprofits to file annual reports, yearly reports, to keep the Department of State's records current. including information about your nonprofit's registered agent and the names and address of your officials, officers, and directors, which, new directors will get voted on once a year, and at that time, we will send out our annual report and go from there. Go ahead.
Is it my understanding though that officers and directors are different things? The officer would be like more of the president, vice president, and the director would be more on like a steering committee or even that representative person?
Yeah, I believe so. I think you have that right, Rosalind.
Okay.
The filing fee is $61.25, and you must file online at the Florida Department of State's website. So it's 61. So you got to add that into the budget. That's going to be, I would say $61.25 a year to file the annual report.
So back to your last statement. So we have 3 different entities. We have 3 people as board members. We have 4 or 5 people as committee members, and we have a director of I don't know how many people. So we're going to have quite a few people involved.
Well, I think we need to get to that subject.
We're gonna get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to have to work out. I'll be honest with you. I went on there to look at the application, and I'm not sure what the maximum of board of directors you can put into the application. I have to look at that again. But those are things, we'll have to work out soon. But to go back, the IRS expects the following information when filing your form, which is, you have your 1040 easy tax form. This is they call it the 990N for the social club nonprofit form. So you're going to have your employer identification number, obviously, what they asked at, which you will have to have at the beginning. The tax year, which, if we do this, it'll be in 2021 or 2020 or whenever. Organization's legal name, which would be the Lakeland Brewers Guild, and the mailing address, which would be probably to the secretary. Any other names the organization uses, which I'm not sure if we use any other names. Name and address of the principal officer. Website address if the organization has one. And confirmation that the organization annual gross receipts are less than $50,000. I'm sure that will not be a problem right now.
No,
The mailing address.
I would like for that to be a problem though one day.
Yeah, I would too.
So back to the mailing address, you brought that up. I know in past organizations I've been offices in, we had a P.O. box in the local town we were in, which happened to be Lakeland. I don't know if that's...
It said no P.O. boxes earlier.
Oh, really?
Let me clarify that. The registered person cannot have a P.O. box.
Right.
But the business organization can.
Right.
Why wouldn't we keep it the same?
Well, and then they say that you only need a P.O. box if it is not the same. So that's some of that detail that I have in my notes that we need to discuss, because there's, and I think some of this, when we get to that degree of detail, I think that's something like a subcommittee would take on, because everybody doesn't need to be involved in filling out the application and things like that.
Right.
And potentially that person who would have both might decide to go rogue.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think I think at the beginning they had that issue earlier too. Because Brian asked me, didn't we already go through all this? And I told Brian, the last meeting that we had, we discussed that someone was supposed to go through all this, and then they went rogue and never did anything about it. So, yeah, well.
Yeah, Garrett said that was the last time they ever heard from him.
Yeah. So we'll have to we'll have to assign somebody that's reliable on that.
Well, right now, poor Tony and Brian are both president, secretary, and treasurer. So I'm sure that's one of the things I was going to talk about is since we're at that time frame to start talking about electing the supplemental folks.
So to maintain the status of 501c7, an annual tax return must be done. The club will need to set up an IRS electronic filing account, retain that log on information for the annual filings. The information cited above is entered into the online form, which is the 1 through 7. And you affirm that your receipts are less than 50,000, which that was all in the 1 through 7. So
we never have been one yet.
no, we are who we are right now, and nobody else knows us besides through competitions or anything. Yeah, and
We're
all
in the
that.
dark state.
So these are some of the instructions for the articles of to file for the application. The corporation name, obviously, to be to be different or unique on the records of the Department of State. It must include either corporation, incorporated, so CORP or INC. Do not use or assume the name is approved until you receive your filing acknowledgement from the Division of Corporations. So if you file it and you get it all through, don't assume you have it until you get the certification that you do have it.
So technically, we're not Lakeland Brewers Guild until they say we are, right?
Exactly. So we are not Lakeland Brewers Guild until the state says we are Lakeland Brewers Guild. And we are nothing until the state says we are something. So,
And we actually have to be more than that because we have to change our name anyway to include Corp or Inc.
Exactly. Yep. And that also changes on all business cards and everything else also. So.
Business card?
Hold on, back up. Rosalind, what did you say to include what?
Oh, yeah, first bullet point or second? Yeah, the first bullet point says the name has to include corporation, incorporated, corporate, Inc.
So we're Lakeland Brewers Guild Incorporated.
Well,
Or corporation.
Since we're on that topic, we had talked about adjusting the name anyway. So one of the thoughts I had was making it the Greater Lakeland Brewers Guild. Since it's not just Lakeland. I mean, you guys live in Winter Haven. There's people that live in Auburndale. There's people that live in Polk City. So, I mean, it would make sense to adjust it.
Yeah.
Maybe Central Florida Brewers Guild or.
There's already a Central Florida's Brewing Company over in Orlando, I think.
Are they
Well, and if we just add the word greater to it, we still could finish out using the business cards that we have because it's still Lakeland Brewers Guild. It's just the Greater Lakeland.
Yeah, that's fine. I think the names doesn't matter that much right now, just as long as we get through it and get it done.
And I think
Right.
business cards are not the reason why we should make a decision.
What's that, Greg?
Excuse me?
So those next 3 points that are on the slide are what I was talking about the addresses.
Yep. So principal place or a business address. So yeah, the street. So you can't use a PO box for. So if the secretary wants to use her address to receive all the information, that address has to be used. We can't use a PO box for that.
Unless somebody wants to make their house, the official location of Lakeland Brewers Guild.
That's Craft Kitchen.
Put a sign on Brian's garage.
There you go.
No, we'll put a sign on the front door of Craft Kitchen.
That's if they give us our junk mail. I'll be honest with you, that's pretty much all it's going to be is junk. We'll have a few pieces of mail that we'll have to look at, but the rest of it is just, you're going to get a lot of junk mail from companies that are not part of the state that are trying to get money from you. So just
Then I got a great idea. We'll use my brother-in-law neighbor's address, and he can send the junk mail.
Just prepare for that. Anyways, registered agent name and address, signature, individual or legal entity that will accept service or process on behalf of the business entity is the registered agent. Mailing address, the corporation's mailing address, if different from the principal's address. PO box is not acceptable. So there you go. That's where we're at on that for the PO box. So on the next one over, this means we need to determine a few things in order to move forward. We need to rebrand our name, including the incorporation or corporation. Incorporated or corporation, I'm sorry. So that we have a distinguished name in order to file.
If we ever became an LLC, C stands for corporation.
Well, LLC would definitely not be a nonprofit.
Right.
So we can't do that. And I don't suggest doing that. There's other means to 501
Yes.
C7. Yep, and stuff like that. But now you're starting to get political now. So, and I don't think we want to go down that.
Absolutely not. We don't want to get.
I don't think we need to go down that rabbit hole. So,
Absolutely.
we need to establish a principal street address in our club as well as a mailing address. The registered agent will need to be identified. This person or legal entity will be able to conduct businesses on the behalf of the club through the state. So, is there one more? Let's see. No,
That was it.
Yeah. So, all right.
Paul, you've done a great job there. I really got a lot of information pulled together.
Well, help to Roz with helping me make it a lot prettier. So me and Roz did a good job. So
No, you get all the credit. I put some
She's
pretties
not
on
even on the
it.
camera.
all right.
There she is.
Okay, so kind of hooking off of what we've ended up there, amending the names. Since we're going to change it anyway, we need to think about, well, one is once we land on a name, whether we put greater on there, if we choose Inc. or whatever, then we'll have to do a cursory research on it just to make sure that there's no duplication so that we don't have the same name as some other group. I think we're okay, but I haven't done a lot of research on that. How does everybody feel about the name change?
And websites too, you want to look on that too.
Okay.
Okay.
So what are we suggesting our new name should be?
The
I
only
mean,
thing
should it
thought
say
about-
Greater Lakeland or should it say Polk County Brewers Guild?
I'm good with Polk County, but I don't know if there's already any out there.
I don't think there's anything that says Polk County. But I mean, it doesn't matter as long as we get to do what we get to do. I'm not too worried about what we call ourselves.
So I'm gonna write down-
We don't call ourselves the Dumb Shits Beer Club.
This is fine.
I heard that.
Nobody's got that name.
So what we'll do is I'll write down a couple, one Greater Lakeland, one Polk County, and I'll go ahead and research a couple of those to see if they're good. And then maybe what we'll do is come back together and vote on the name that we'll move forward with. Sound good?
Could I put a suggestion in there?
Yep.
What about Florida Brewers Guild United or Brewers Guild United?
Go larger, right?
And actually, do we want to stick with the word guild, or do we want to say club, or we're
I
mixing it
like
up?
Guild.
I like
I
Guild.
really
yeah.
like Guild. I mean, I think we need, you know, it was always started as the Lakeland Brewers Guild, and I think we need to keep Guild in the name.
Yep.
Keeping in
Keep it
mind,
original.
our email address is Lakeland Brewers. Our web address is Lakeland Brewers. So if we change it too much, it'll be confusing.
Right. Rosalind, that's a valid point that I never would have thought of.
We can do
But I
aliases.
agree with you.
Aliases to point to them.
Yeah, it mails and it forwards it to
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Well, I'm familiar with that, but the email address still, that's not necessarily forwarding. Yeah, with all over social media. So is there anything else we want to talk about with regards to the incorporation and the filing with the state and that before we move on to bylaws?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
I motion we take a 5-minute recess. Everyone use the restroom, get a fresh brew, and then we come back and start with bylaws.
I agree.
Sounds a good idea. See everybody at 4:45.
All right.
So everyone ready to move on to the next order of business?
Yeah.
Wow, right on time.
Okay, let's go to the bylaws.
Okay. So all of you have received the proposal and the different versions that were out there. And hopefully you've read through them. I've made some notes on things that I'd like to see, but what I propose that we do is just go article by article and discuss each one. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Yeah, that was my recommendation as well.
Okay. So we already talked about the name. So if everybody's good with that, we can go ahead and move to Article 2.
Hang on, let me record it.
Okay.
Did we decide on a name, or we just said it needs to be changed?
We haven't decided on a name, no.
We haven't decided on the name. We're going to vote on the name.
Gotcha.
They're gonna see what's available of what was suggested.
Then
Keeping in mind that a lot of our paraphernalia has it, we'd have to get a new redesign on the logo. We'd have to go through legal to make sure that logo is not already taken and used by somebody else. So there's a lot of work behind a total name change.
and possibly bills.
And what?
Bills, possibly? Would there be cost for this?
Yep.
By the way, Roz, guess what I'm having?
What?
Look at this beer and tell me what it is.
Oh gosh, how
The
do we
Amber?
there?
It's not Duchess.
Oh,
It's Rodenbach.
There you go.
Oh, road.
I knew when I said it's not Duchess, you would know exactly what it is.
Yep, exactly. Good job. So Article 2 is about the purpose. Reading through the document, I didn't have any issues with anything. I didn't see anything that needed to be changed. It was pretty encompassing, talking about, it's about the hobby. We'll be talking about and drinking home brews with, beer, mead, cider, tasting, judging, encouraging good practices. So just the purpose, I had no problems with that. Sound good with everybody?
I agree. Article 2 is great.
Good, checked off.
I'll say we move to Article 3.
Okay, Article 3. Point A talked about everybody has to be of legal drinking age, and
Absolutely.
membership shall be granted after completion and receipt of the membership application and dues. So just a reiteration that a person can express to be a member, but they are not a member until they officially fill out the application and pay all the dues. Good?
Right. So I've got a question about that. Should we have a form, basically a waiver that everyone should sign upon becoming a member, that we are not responsible for any
Yeah, that's-
actions where somebody gets too intoxicated somewhere and all that, that everybody signs where the Lakeland Brewers Guild or Polk County Brewers Guild or Greater Lakeland Brewers Guild is not responsible for those actions.
I think,
That's in that's further down in 3.4, so we'll get to that.
yeah, I think all that will be, if they're given the bylaws, that everything in the bylaws should cover us on everything when it comes to if they're.
Right, but Article A says application.
Yes.
So I think
Well,
all that should be covered in an application that you sign.
Tommy, 3.4, so that's a few paragraphs down. So can we table that until we get to that section?
Sure.
Okay. It does say that it's without discrimination on race, color, creed. I want to just double check the language on that and make sure that we have all the inclusion verbiage in there, okay?
It probably should say color, race, creed, or sexuality. Just in
It
this
does.
day and time. Okay, then we're good.
It says race or religion, color, creed, national origin, sex, or other non-discriminatory political affiliation or belief.
Yep.
I want to try to mirror the, because it doesn't say anything about physical abilities or anything like that. So I want to double check the language. 3.1b. My first question was, do we remove it or do we want to have something called sponsored members? So as my understanding of a sponsored member, according to what this says, is that a different entity could pay for the membership of a person. And at first I was thinking of removing it because we weren't going to have that, but then it made me think perhaps maybe, for example, Dan wants to sponsor a membership for his brewers, or maybe some of his staff members to become members of our guild. So maybe we want to keep that part B in there so that we have sponsored memberships.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need at least keep the possibility of somebody being able to sponsor us. So yeah.
Or you know, if somebody's falling on hard times, maybe I would sponsor them in a particular year or something. So where basically where somebody else pays for the membership for somebody else.
Yep.
Okay, keep it.
That's fine.
Anybody else?
It's fine.
3.2 member dues.
Yeah, it's gonna go.
When I was reading on this, I was thinking about something that was said before about raising the dues. Right now they're $20. The bylaws that were proposed a long time ago said family membership were at 1.5 times the rate. So that would have been $35, $30. But if we do raise the membership dues, there's a few ideas I had about that we can talk about later, but it says family memberships will be available to the primary member and an additional adult living in the same member household. Do we want to make the family membership 1.5 times?
Nope, I disagree.
Keep
What
it
I
at
say is, all right, with everything we got to do, we probably got to raise dues to $30 a member.
Mhm.
But the way I see it, you know, when someone joins, their spouse or significant other, there should be a member. And you're case positive because Brian paid his dues this year. According to those laws, you weren't a member. So the guild will owe you a couple $1,000s for all the work and research and everything you've done. But as a member, we don't owe you anything because you're a member. I just think that we lose so much if we do that, because there's so many people who their spouse contributes so much to the club that we can't differentiate there.
Mhm.
I mean, so we raise dues, $30 a person. That covers everything we do. I mean, as far as our brews and all that, everybody pays their own way, does their own brew, brings it. I don't think that's an issue. I just don't agree with charging somebody extra money for their spouse to be a member.
Other people?
I don't know that, if my wife wanted to be a member, I think she would pay. But if she doesn't want to be a member, then I don't think she would pay. If she wants to come to a Christmas party, that's always been fine. But if she doesn't want to come one, that's fine too.
And I go to all the meetings.
So my opinion, yeah, we'll have to raise dues, obviously. That's just a given.
Right.
Right.
When it so,
I'm going to say right now, as Brahmi, I'm going to vote no on that. I'm going to ride it. I'm going to fight it the whole way. I agree with raising the dues, but as far as charging extra for a spouse, I mean, if you want your whole family to be in it, that's fine. But a spouse or a significant other, I will fight it till.
Well, then there's a compromise to be made here. What happens is instead of charging $30 per member and $45 for a family, you just charge 35 or 40 for whatever, and that would cover the family. $40 per member or $4 per family.
I agree with that, Brian. 40 for family, 30 for,
Well, no, I was saying if Tommy wants to fight it, that's fine. Instead of doing 30 per member or 45 for family, you just do 40 for member or family. So it's 40 no matter what. So that everybody's included.
I think we're going to go down a slippery road because we're going to now have to define what family is. Because I could say that I have 10 people in my family.
So it did say one.
No. It's spouse. It's what I'm saying is it's $30
Per member plus one.
per member, and that covers your spouse or your significant other, not the whole family, not your cousins.
Where I am sitting on this is I'm a little torn because Tommy makes some really good points, but one of the things is I choose to be very active because I have a passion to support, and I have a skill set that allows me to just support. But if by one person paying dues, his family or spouses are automatically considered a member, that lowers the significance of what I do, because I feel, I see myself as a full-fledged member. I don't brew, but I do everything else. And by officially being a member by way of a family membership or whatever, that gives me a little bit more strength, or I don't know. If someone's wife shows up or husband shows up or whatever, and they say, well, I'm a member, I should be able to do this. Where do I fall? I'm active, they're not.
So I want
Rosalind, but can I elaborate right now?
Paul,
I would agree. I would agree too with this, and I would think would be a pretty good idea is if we said this membership is good for 2 people, regardless of who they are.
Right, I agree with that, because I think what Rosalind does is invaluable. I mean, regardless what anybody says or any monetary values, Rosalind's a full-fledged member. She's a committee member.
I think we all agree with that.
She contributes more than a lot of people that are full or whatever you want to call paid members that are single members that make beer.
Yeah.
So we just got to adjust our rate.
And my whole point is we can't differentiate there, because
I want to give an example real quick. So, last year we ordered shirts, right? I was a full-blown member. I gave my dues. I paid my dues last year. I paid my dues previous year. We ordered shirts, right? Well, I'm not trying to be a dick here, but my wife was never offered a shirt.
Neither.
Neither.
I will be honest, neither was I. So
Yeah.
I inquired about one myself.
So if you're going to include, if you're going to include member dues, including a spouse, then that spouse, my wife or Rosalind, should have been offered a shirt. So-
You're absolutely correct. You're
Part of the
absolutely correct.
problem,
I'm not
and
arguing
I'll tell
that
you,
point.
part of the problem was the email. Up until recently, I was never copied on the emails.
told him what color.
So part of the things that need to be fixed is the membership mailing list.
Yeah, agreed.
If each membership included 2 people, there would be 2 email slots for each membership.
Right.
Well, then that's what we got to do.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe we should take a note on that.
Now that does kind of take a issue for the people who are not married. They're going to be paying for 2.
No, you
Well,
have
no.
to be married.
No,
What
no,
if-
you're not. The dues are what they are, but it does include a spouse.
Well, no. The way we'd get out of the trouble there is, let's just for a simple math, the dues are $45 or $40, whatever. That includes you, plus you're allowed to invite one additional person if you wish.
Plus one.
So
I like that.
that way it's not saying a spouse, it's not saying significant. It's like you plus one if you wish.
Okay,
I agree.
that's fine. Yep. Because I mean, if there's a gay person that wants to bring his gay friend or gay lover or whoever,
They should have that right.
and they can't get married or for some political reason or whatever, they should
They should have that right.
include that person. Yeah.
It's
Now
a,
let me just,
whether it be your brother, your wife, your aunt, your nephew, your niece, your best friend, whatever, it's a plus one.
Okay, now can that person change? Will that person, is it one address, one email address?
and that's
Can that person
what,
change every day?
And then here's where we go there. That is up to the committee.
and I was going to bring that up because it should be that a designated person who is identified, number one, and number two, this is a little bit of a slippery slope because if we say you pay this one due and it's good for 2 people, that does affect our insurance because right now our insurance is for a certain number of people, and if it suddenly doubles, now our insurance changes.
Correct. Good thought, Roger.
Yeah.
Who knew this was going to be a big deal?
Well, no, it really is a big deal.
Well, so let me just throw in one more little monkey wrench.
Because here's the thing. A lot of people would be discouraged from joining if they didn't think their spouse was, invited or part of it or anything like that, because, they might show one face at the meetings, but when they get home, it's a whole different face, and we lose people that way.
So I'm going to throw in another monkey wrench. I had an idea. Right now, we accept cash. We accept PayPal. I don't know if there's direct deposit that we've, considered or credit card. But I had a thought of when we pay, if they pay in cash all at once, that they get a discount of paying the flat $45 or whatever it would be. If they pay using PayPal, there's fees that are attached to it. So, maybe make it $2 or $3 more using PayPal to cover those fees, possibly.
I thought PayPal attached those fees straight at the top.
Yeah, I thought so.
I pay my phone bill every month to my aunt with PayPal, and if I send her $100, I pay 106 or something.
It depends on how it's set up, to be honest. It used to be hidden fees. And then
I pay
one
cash to Tommy, and I don't know what his fee is.
My fee's in beer.
so then there's one more thing that I had been thinking about is, let's say we have a person who's really passionate, wants to become a member, and it's July. Membership starts September 1st. So how do we pay those dues? So my thought was, if they apply and become a member September through May, so for the first 3 quarters, pay full dues. But if they apply June 1st to August 31st, they pay half the dues.
Like prorate.
Yeah, well,
I agree.
not even totally
I agree.
prorate. Prorating makes it difficult because that's a lot of the
You gotta figure
treasurer would
every
have to
month,
do a lot
every
of
day.
calculation. That's extra paperwork. If it's a flat, if you apply before May 31st, you pay full. If you apply after May 31st, you pay half.
Yeah, I agree with that, Rosalind. You're half and half,
make it
because you
easy.
pay between them there and then. So,
And then on September 1st, everybody re-ups.
I like it, Roz.
Okay,
yep, I agree.
everybody's agree?
Yeah, because we really have less paperwork, the better. The less complicated we do this, the better. We're
Yeah,
trying,
for tax purposes.
yeah, we're not trying to make this complicated. We just need to get this all lined up. And as soon as we get everything lined up, then everything is a breeze from there on out. And that's what we need to make this.
Put it on automatic.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, and the other thing is we just need to make it easy to hand off to other people. So if we complicate
Exactly.
things, nobody's gonna want to do it.
right, yep.
And almost nobody wants to do it anyway.
Okay, so back to the member dues, 3.2. We talked about the individual versus family. We've decided, well, what did we decide? Did we decide on individual plus one?
Yes, that's agreed. The membership's 2 people.
Okay, so member dues.
Okay, so
The membership is 2 people.
So let me ask you this question. The membership is 2 people, but do they have to declare those 2 people when they apply?
Yes.
Because that, again, is going to affect their insurance.
Yes, absolutely,
Email address.
absolutely. Because if they want to change the other membership, then it should go before the committee
Yep.
to
So
be
what if you get,
approved.
so what if you get 2 friends that want to join? Okay, we'll buy 1 membership and I'll let you tag along with me.
That's a
That's,
good
Well, then
that-
the
that-
next guy
then you're
buys his
blowing
own
a-
membership.
You're blowing a full membership.
Well,
No,
then he
that's-
finds another friend that wants to join too. We are a
So if I
family-friendly
get,
organization.
so if I get 1 and I want my other member is my son-in-law in Tampa. So, okay, he's a member.
You and him
for-
are members.
I think you lose out a membership that way.
I mean,
think the price
yeah.
of the dues it's not that much. It's
So
fine.
we drop the rate down a little bit and make it each person pay. It's all the same. We drop, the people who pay have to pay insurance.
Well, I mean, you can't have 10 people on 1 membership.
No, going back to the thing, if it's individual,
Hey, stop talking because you're interfering with
But why don't you just do a single membership and let the spouse tag along for free and let it go like that? I mean, that,
Well, that's what we were doing, and that's where this whole thing went along.
Well, I can see a simple
But,
thing
I mean-
that messes this up is like Tommy. I go, well, I'm paying my dues, and Tommy is my my 1+.
Yeah.
I just as an example, or
Right.
but that's silly because no, you're separate brewers. You're
Okay.
So.
well, what about this?
But the thing is, here's the whole point. Brian is an incredible brewer, and he is a big plus to the club. His wife, Rosalind, is a big plus to the club. How do you differentiate? I mean, you can't say she's a member as his spouse. She's a full member. She pulls her own weight. Hell, she pulls more than her weight.
Maybe this idea works. You have a member, and then any additional member of their family, or any additional member of their household or whatever, is half price. What do you think of that?
Well, that was the 1.5 times thing.
Yeah, but that way, if let's say we have my sister living here too, and she wants to be that gives 1 additional half price. So that way,
So
if you do have a family of 10, you get the plus plus plus.
So what you're saying is the membership covers 2 people, and they're both full members, and then each additional member that comes on board that is half price.
No, I'm saying you have per household, you have a first member, the second, third, fourth, they're each half price. So it's basically you get buy one, get one half price.
First person's 30, second
Pogo.
person's 15, third person's 15, fourth person's 15.
What do you think?
What was it? First question, everybody else.
The wheels are turning.
Yeah.
I hear a
think
lot
that
of
sounds like
background
they're
noise.
trying to suck money out of people, to be honest.
So regardless, we
We
gotta
need
still
to
pay
make some
insurance.
money here, Tommy.
I'm sorry.
It's not all about
We
making
don't,
money.
all
It's
we
not-
need is enough money to live. We're not trying to make money here,
Right,
except
it's
for
not-
charity.
Okay, it's not all about making money, but if they're don't get me wrong with saying this, but if they're going to suck into what we're able to give them, then they shouldn't get it for free.
But here's the thing. All the people I'm speaking of are spouses of the other members.
Okay, so
Every
okay,
year we got how many kegs on tap? They're not sucking nothing for free. They don't need to leave home to get whatever it is we offer.
They're probably brewing themselves.
Okay, but how much does it cost for one of the shirts? Just to buy one shirt, how much is a shirt?
25.
the 25 or 30.
So one membership fee is not going to cover the cost of even 2 shirts.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but we bought our own shirts. We
Yeah, we
paid for our own
paid for our own
shirts.
shirts.
The membership didn't cover any of that.
I bought 4
I
of
know
them.
that you're trying to get to the point where your membership dues will include your shirt and things like that is what I'm trying to.
No, I'm
Yeah,
not.
and I don't necessarily agree with that personally. I don't need the extra shirts.
Greg, you don't want to change the logo. You got 4 of them.
My wife just wants one, is what she says.
Then all we got to do is go to the printer and have her one printed. No big deal.
Yeah, I know. That's beyond the subject. But
I mean, we're about family. We're about family values.
this is
I'm
exactly.
gonna stand to the tilt that the membership's 2 people. A member, significant other, both members.
Okay, so you pay $40, that includes your spouse. As long as they live in the same household. If your cousin or your stepbrother or your stepsister or
Then
whoever else,
they can get in at half price.
full price.
Full
That
price.
makes
I'm good
sense.
with that.
So $40
Full
covers 2
price.
people within the same household.
Full price.
Okay, I like the way that you worded that,
So
Jessica.
now Bill's got relatives that do not live in the same household.
And they would be on their own.
Yep, they'd be on their own. I don't care if they live in the same household or not.
No,
I'm
same
gonna
household,
start
2
bringing-
people, same household.
I'll start bringing my dog.
If a third
There you go.
person lives in,
Right.
they gotta pay full.
We need a brew
And
dog
Jess-
anyway.
Yeah.
And Jess,
Some of
just
those
for you,
dogs-
Jess, I don't see you as any less a member than Paul.
Oh, thank you, Tommy.
Some of those dogs
You know-
drink more beer than I do.
The reality is, we're not talking big gobs of money. You know, $40.
Yeah, we're not.
45. I mean, what? You know, most.
We're not
Unless
in the
you're-
business of trying to make money.
Right.
We're trying
No,
to
I'm
make
saying, but $30, 45. You know, it's. If we were talking hundreds of dollars, it might matter. You know, now we're
Yeah.
you know, nickel and diming, but it does matter. Like Paul was saying, we need some funds to actually
Do things.
develop this group, and
Yeah.
you know, the due is the only way you can get them. So you know, $15. But so far, I think that's a pretty good option. You do your plus one in the
I
household.
mean, I got $180 in my drawer to put in the kitty. I can match that if I need to. I mean, no big deal.
Yeah, but that's not what we're asking because that's just not the way a corporation works.
I understand. I just think there's individuals that discriminates against, and it's just
How
I
is
just
it
don't
discriminating?
believe that, and I'll fight.
I'm sorry. How does one membership covering 2 people in the household discriminate against anyone?
Okay, because I'll use you for example. Ryan, you paid your dues. You're a member. Rosalind contributes just as much as you do. So how is she not a member?
No. Did you
We're
hear
not
what we
saying
had?
that.
We talked. We said one membership covers 2 people in a household. How is that?
Right.
How is
No,
that
no, no.
discriminating?
That I agree with. That's what I'm fighting for.
Okay.
All right, that's where we'll settle it then.
I'm just acting as a sergeant of arms. We are now at 3.2, and we've got to get to what, 7 or 9?
It's all right. We're getting through this.
All right, so the other thing that was under 3.2 was about an honorary member. I don't know if we should or should not have honorary members. I know we kind of have that in Swan, specifically Dan and Joe. Are we still wanting to keep honorary members?
Yes,
Yes.
as long as they own a brewery.
Yes.
Or a grain shop?
Yes.
Yep, okay. All right,
Because they contribute a lot to the guild.
yep, okay, we'll move on from there.
I mean,
Do we pay
we all buy
taxes?
grain at Bryce.
Do we pay insurance on those members?
No.
We do not, they do not
No.
have voting rights, they do not receive, let's see, it's further down, but they can't vote, they can't, they just basically show up, so they don't have any rights.
No, exactly. They don't have any voting rights or anything, but these folks, you know what? They give us a place to have our meetings. They, hell, they sell us grain cheaper than we can buy it anywhere else.
And when they do pouring events, they
There's
pour
a lot of positives for the group.
when
They come to all our pouring events and
and
pour
when
for
they
free.
when they do pouring events, they go on behalf of their own company, not ours. So
Right.
No, but they show up at all our events and pour for free.
I'm just saying, yeah.
Okay,
Because, I mean, not to put anybody out there, but Dan and Joe have both told me any events we ever do, count them in.
All right.
They're going to come, they're going to pour, they're going to do anything they can do. That's, I mean, you know, that's an honorary member.
They're almost like
What they
family
do,
members.
their dues would be nothing.
All right. So which one are we at now?
we're at 3.3 under member rights. When I was reading through that, I didn't see anything that stood out. Everything's pretty straightforward. Basically saying that, let's see, substantial decisions would be voted on by the board. Other than that, everything else is pretty straightforward, like termination of members.
Have we decided
And
who the board is?
That's not at this point yet, no. It did say that club members may be reimbursed for reasonable expenses. Basically, it's stating that if you can donate like your grain, your beer that you're pouring, but if there's a reasonable expense that needs to be reimbursed, that could be submitted to the treasurer once a person's elected, and they could potentially receive a reimbursement. So
that has to, all right, let me elaborate on that. That has to be reviewed and agreed before it happens. You can't just go donate a bag that somebody gave you and then say, hey, that bag's $70. I want 50 back.
Yeah, I agree.
It has to be done beforehand.
True. There's been situations where we've been asked, hey, can you pick up 50 pounds of ice? And, with the understanding that, okay, the club would pay that person back, or at least pay for half of it or something. But that's one of those things where it says validated receipts has to be presented to the treasurer and recorded in the secretary's meeting notes. So, like I said, I don't have anything I disagreed with under 3.3.
I agree with you 100%.
Yep.
Okay, so here's the important one. And Brian Peterson had some comments on this too. It was about the statement about being held harmless. One of the proposals is that we put some of this verbiage on our sign-in sheets so that if we have guests that show up that are non-members, that they are acknowledging that the same thing. So I'll read the statement. It says, my participation in Lakeland Brewers Guild is entirely voluntary. I know that participation in club activities involves the consumption of alcoholic beverages and this may affect my perception and reactions. I accept responsibility for my conduct, behavior, and actions, and release Lakeland Brewers Guild, its members, officers, and venue owners and operators of responsibility for my conduct, behavior, and actions, or any consequence thereof. My participation includes that of my guests who may be present at club activities, wherever such is held, and I agree to indemnify and hold Lakeland Brewers Guild, its members and officers, harmless from damage arising out of my actions or that of my guests.
Agreed.
Everybody needs to sign that.
So my proposal was, on the application, the person has to read that and sign it. When we start issuing membership cards again, that something of that would be on the back of the membership card. And then Brian Peterson said probably the first sentence there would be on the sign-in sheet when a guest shows up, that anybody who attends our meeting.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it, yeah.
yeah, I
And you
love
have
it
to
for
sign,
that.
and you have to sign the sign-in sheet to attend the meeting.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I agree.
Otherwise, you're not a member. You're not attending.
Sounds good. All right.
Yep.
So 3.5, resignation of membership. It's pretty straightforward. Any member that wants to resign has to communicate with the secretary. Failure to remain current on dues shall not be presumed as a resignation, but may be grounds for termination of membership. And resignation shall not leave any member of monies or things that are owed to the club. Are we all good with that?
So what does that mean? Does that mean
Absolutely.
that when they stop paying their dues, basically they're taken off a mail list? Because that's where we're at.
Right now, what this says is if they don't pay their dues, they're not necessarily not a member. They can pay their back dues and be up to speed.
So they stay on the mailing list? 'Cause that's pretty much what we got right now.
But we gotta, all right, somewhere we gotta,
I was going to say that I hear voices in the background. I can't hear.
Sorry.
So I was going to say that what we could suggest is saying that if they don't pay their dues for 3/4 of the year, then they would get a notice saying that their membership is going to be terminated.
3/4.
somewhere in the bylaws, I read this and I didn't see it and we didn't cover it, but there was an article that discussed members that didn't pay their dues participating in events.
Right.
And
if you're not up to,
I agree with
up to
that.
speed on- yeah. If you're not paid up in your dues, that you cannot
Do
participate
the
in that.
AHA, you can't participate in any of our charity events. You can't do any of that.
Yeah, I agree
Well, they
with
can
that because the
participate on their own.
last time we had that situation is when we had our last pouring, not our last pouring event, our pouring event before then, someone decided to bring other beverages besides beer. And they thought that since, you know, they knew people part of the club, that they could be part of the club for their so-called alcohol beverage, and that will not be allowed if, in my opinion, that will not be allowed. So,
As long as they're a paid member,
yeah, as long as they're a paid member.
Well, I think we're a
they
brewing
can bring
company.
their beverages.
I don't think we're a spirits company because most people know who you're talking about. But so
Alan.
if somebody brings their alcohol from a distributor or from a distillery, and they didn't make it, you know, I think we're brewing. We're a brewing company. We're beers.
Yes,
We're
I
not
agree.
wine and spirits and
Beer and mead.
mead. Yeah, mead,
But let's
cider.
stick with, you have to be a paid member to participate in any of our events.
So you have to be current on dues.
Anything.
I'm gonna make these notes. So they have to be current on dues.
To participate in any events, whether it be the AHA or anything. You might could show up at a meeting, but you need to pay your dues.
Okay.
Yeah, because that.
I mean, there's got to be a little period to pay your dues, but the thing is, it's a grace period. You got to pay your dues.
So there is. It's September 1st to the 30th. September. So you've got the whole month of. So basically, it's upon the board to communicate to the members that says, hey, your dues are due, and this is how you can pay it. via PayPal, via check, whatever.
Yeah, I think
It's the
that's
same
covered
thing.
in
I mean, we're part
3.2.
of an HOA and we have a limited time to pay our HOA dues. Otherwise, there's a penalty fee. There's
You
a
get a
late fee.
fine.
to Pay your HOAs.
You get a fine. You
Yeah.
get a fine, and it's imposed on a lien against your house.
Now, Rosalind, I got a question for you. You were saying something like they get 3/4 of the year to not pay.
No, I was saying in the bylaws as they are written right now, it said something to the effect that failure to remain current on dues shall not be presumed as a resignation, but may be grounds for termination.
Membership.
Basically, it has to be voted on for someone. It says any member whose membership has been revoked because of non-payment can be reinstated to full membership by paying total back dues. So we have to have a period that says, okay, you haven't paid from this point to this point, you're no longer a member. And if you want to become a member again, now you have to pay the full dues again.
Right.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think
And we got to have something there that says you cannot participate in any of our activities without paying your dues.
Yeah,
in
definitely.
3.2, section 3.2, it talks about that a little bit.
Yes, thank you, Greg. I knew it was in there somewhere.
And then can we add a kind of stipulation? You have 30 days to pay. You know, it's due on September 1st. You have until the 30th to pay it.
It says
October
that-
Well, I
1st.
mean, nobody in the
that
club's
3.2.
illiterate. They know when dues are due. I mean,
Well, we didn't, honestly, Tommy, we didn't for several years. We just knew that we gave them.
we knew at the beginning of the year, ever since I've been in the guild, I knew first of the year your dues were due.
Yeah, but see,
Not
that's
paying,
not it.
you're
That's
paying
not true,
dues.
Tommy. That's not true. It's September 1st. So it says in 3.2 that dues are due on September 1st and must be paid by the end of September, or the member will be removed from the club list.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well,
So it's very
but
clear.
this was never incorporated. That's why we're going through it right now to get it all incorporated.
And
Exactly.
we're not saying they're going to be terminated. We're saying they need to be notified and, hey, get your money in now.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So let's see. That played into what I was talking about, where if somebody joins like later, they in the last quarter they pay the half dues.
Right. And I agree.
Okay. So moving on, let's see, we have termination of membership. It says any member may be suspended or expelled from membership upon showing willful disregard of these bylaws or other actions that might be detrimental to the Brewers Guild in any way. It's as determined by a majority vote of the executive board. The charges against the member will be considered a regular committee meeting or a special meeting called for that purpose. The causes would include failure to support, or act adversely to the provisions in the bylaws, commit any act of theft or violence against a person, or in connection with the club, conviction of a felony, or if they should return any materials as required.
I agree.
That one's for you, Tommy.
I agree. Yeah, I know. I've seen you looking at me.
Hey,
Any member who's-
we love you, Tommy.
Yes, we do. Any member
Everybody
whose
deserves a second
membership-
chance.
So any member whose membership has been revoked because of non-payment of dues will be reinstated for full membership as soon as they pay all total back dues. Any member who has been revoked for any other reason may be reinstated by a majority vote of the board.
I agree.
And then just because they're
Agreed.
terminated does not relieve them of any financial things that they may owe.
Absolutely not.
No.
And I'm good with the rest of it. 3.7 refers to guests. It says guests may attend club meetings, functions, subject to any limitations established by the executive committee or board. It's anticipated that guests would eventually join the club. Is there anything?
I would like to add that they got to sign that sheet of paper that has
Yeah.
that information.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. No. That was in there earlier. Anybody attending the meeting must sign the sheet.
Yeah, it wasn't part of the bylaws though, so I'm gonna go ahead and write that in. Sign in on sheet.
I want to propose the 2-minute break right now before we carry on.
Is that how long it takes you to pee?
Well, if I pee real fast, I can
Remember,
get
this is
there.
being recorded.
Cheers.
His pants,
No,
See you
no.
in 2.
That's not it. He's just gonna go get hit the tap one time.
That's it.
he's just gonna go change his pants. He's already ready.
No, I'm on the outside. I can just pee on the floor.
I do want to say that I think we're doing a great job here, so I just want to give credit to everybody that's here, so.
Yes, thank you for participating.
It'd be nice to have some organization.
Or get back to it, yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, my back.
Have you been taking anything?
Just to leave.
Hmm.
Rubbing a whole lot of biofreeze on my back, and I bought this stuff actually at the Lakeland Farmers Market several months ago, where it was just like a cream for muscle pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's got like oregano and rosemary and peppermint and all different kinds of essential oils in it. And I actually I had some CBD oil, and I put a couple of droplets of the CBD oil in it, and I rubbed that in. So throughout the day, I alternate between the biofreeze and that muscle cream, and it helps a lot. By the end of the day, I feel really good. Like I can get into bed at night with minimal pain. The problem is that when I wake up in the morning, because of course, minimal movement all night, I'm completely stiff again. So it takes me like 25, 30 minutes before I can really move, because I have to try and, there's been a couple of times where in the middle of the night where I'm in so much pain, Paul has to grab me and push me over to help me roll me to my side, because the pain is so bad I can't. Wednesday morning, I was feeling a little bit okay Wednesday morning. Like I called out of work Monday and Tuesday, and Wednesday I'm like, all right, let me try and go to work at least for a few hours. So I went into my closet and I knelt down and I slipped my underwear on, and I was like up on my knees getting my bra on. And I was done with that, and I put my hand up so I could try and like help myself get up so I could get to my pants and everything. And my lower right side just contracted.
Oh,
and the pain was astronomical. I couldn't move. You can ask Paul. I was bawling my eyes out. I was in so much pain, and I couldn't move. And luckily it happened Wednesday, and that's the day that Paul works at the Grove, so he goes to work much later in the day. But he had to come and help me get up, because I was stuck. I was literally like in a squatting position, and I couldn't get up or down. I was in so much pain. I froze.
wow. Yeah, back pain's no joke.
I would not wish this pain on my worst enemy. It hurt so bad. That's why I was in the pool, because I'm like, well, zero gravity, I can just float around here and just good for a little while.
Well, I see who else is pulling their pants up walking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No answer.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen, we're at 3.8 honorary members.
Okay, honorary members. So the board may offer honorary membership to individuals of the professional brewing community, not limited to brewers, breweries, brew pubs, production facilities, or homebrew store owners. They shall not have voting rights. They are not eligible to become officers, and they may have their membership terminated at any time based on the board decision. Some things I had wanted to add to that is the executive committee board would vote to offer honorary memberships. It's not something that would be automatically conferred.
Right.
I propose that they are renewed every September. That is not an automatic renewal.
I will say I am
I'm okay with that, but that's got to be a committee thing.
I'll
Right.
say I just want to put on the record, I am a member of a professional brewing company, but I will continue to pay my dues. So do not give me the free opportunity to not pay my dues. So.
Okay.
Right. And that's the key, I think. If, let's say, Dan Swan wants to become a member and on the board, then he just pays his dues and he becomes a member and gets on the board.
Right.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, then he's an honorary member, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That
So
makes
I'll
sense.
continue.
And then
I'll continue to pay my dues. So.
And then that goes to the third point, is just it allows a conversion to an actual membership. So if, like you said, you're already a member, or if Joe wants to become a member, even though he's honorary, he can pay the dues and become actual.
Yep.
Now,
All good there?
The voting of 5 people or voting of 3 people?
We'll get to that.
We're
but-
going to come to that later. I've got an idea, but we're going to come to that later. Let's finish the articles.
Yep. 3.9, no limitations of free association. Basically, it doesn't say that just because you're part of our club, you cannot join other clubs. We're saying it's
I agree.
open if you want to join some other place too.
Yep.
Yeah, I joined the AHA.
Yep.
No big deal.
Perfect. And then 3.10, no member should use the club for their own personal gain.
Yep.
Agreed.
Simple. Okay. So Article 4 talks about meetings, and it just has one sentence. It says that we have a monthly meeting, and if there's any special meetings, they'll be called by the board as necessary.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay,
Except we should, hang on. All right. Like all these board meetings and executive committee meetings we have,
And
I mean, we should at least have these quarterly. At least quarterly.
That would be a special meeting. The meetings we're talking about for members are the end of the month, that last Saturday of the month meeting.
Right.
September?
No, every month,
Every month.
our monthly meeting.
Oh.
But yes, I agree. The board, that's we need to meet regularly to get business done.
Yeah, at least quarterly. Maybe
Yeah.
every 2 months. I mean, we think about what we've done in the last 2 months of isolation, just every 2 weeks.
Okay, so now we're getting to Article 5, which is election and duties of officers and members.
I suggest that Rosalind goes over all this before we start making comments, because this is going to be a long one. So save all concerns and comments till after she goes over all of it.
Woo, yeah, that is a big section.
It is. All right, and thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. So nominations and elections, in what's written down, says that the nominations will be taken in June and July, and they would be voted on. I would make a suggestion, because we talked about this last meeting, about nominations taking place in May, and then the people would either accept a nomination, and then we put a notice out to members in June. The voting would take place at the July meeting, and then the transition would happen during August so that the new leaders can take their duties on September 1st.
So nominations take place when?
May.
May.
June is the notice to members and the acceptance of the nominations. July would be voting. August would transition from old leaders to new leaders so that they can give over access to the mailbox and the accounts and so on. And then on September 1st, the new board takes over, if there is a change.
And you would have to take care of the treasurer's banking stuff and all that.
Right, that's when all the transitions would happen.
Now, I got a question. Which are we talking about? Executive committee, board members, or directors?
No, he's talking about, that's talking about the board members. That's talking about the president,
Board
the
members, not the
secretary,
executive
and the
committee.
treasurer.
Are they
So
all the same people?
So right now, the structure as it shows in the, and you know, I'll just go over this really quick. The structure is, there is a board / executive committee, whatever you want to call it, consists of, right now it's Tommy and Brian, but it basically would be the president. As it stands right now, it's president, vice president, I'm sorry, president, secretary, treasurer.
It's
Regardless
Tommy,
of the,
Brian, and Garrick.
regardless of however we might change it in the future, right now it's 3. And that is the board or executive committee.
So they're both
there
one
is-
and the same. The board is the same as the executive committee? Because I thought
Well-
it might be different.
Currently, that's how it is, because we don't have anybody else. There is not an executive committee per se.
And
There
who
is
is the
not
director?
and you know, and there's not a director, or you know, at least in my understanding, a director is an outside entity who's kind of overseeing. I guess it's also called responsible party, in what Paul had covered,
It's
and that
Brahmi.
does not exist.
So under 5-1, we're
Brahmi.
nominating who?
Brahmi.
Remember, we're going to try and work our way through this whole section before we start asking questions and comments.
Oh,
because
sorry.
it's a big section, and
Yeah.
a lot of this may answer your questions along the way. So
I got you.
So a very simple, very reasonable rule: no officer can hold more than one office at a time. Everybody agrees on that, right?
Absolutely.
I wouldn't even leave it up for a vote.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
All officers shall make their decisions in accordance with the best interest of the club and club members. There shall be no compensation for the officers other than actual expenses validated with the receipts presented to the current treasurer and recorded in the secretary's public meeting minutes.
Yeah, when it
No
comes to-
other,
When it comes to
no
paper
other-
and stuff like that, so,
I'm sorry?
when it comes to paper and stuff like that, right?
Oh, like for printing, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, whatever the reasonable expenses would be.
right,
That would be a good example. Or like we have a new banner or something.
right.
Yeah.
I'm going to please
Um,
ask that everybody let Roz read through this, and then we're going to go back and go through any sections anybody
yeah,
finds.
Paul, what are you thinking, Paul?
Yeah, I just meant.
Hey, to be
Sorry,
fair,
Paul,
I
I
broke the rule
started this.
first. I broke the rule first when I interrupted myself. It said no other offices may be established except by amendment to these bylaws. So currently, the way the bylaws were drafted was that there was the president, the treasurer, and the secretary, and nothing else can be added until we amend the bylaws. 5.2, the definition of officers. The duties and responsibilities of the executive committee or board, whatever we want to call them, are limited to the following. Are not limited to the following. The president, it says president / organizer. I like sticking with the word president. To provide leadership to the members and the board in planning and overseeing its implementation. The duties would include to appoint chairpersons of committees. That means that if there's a subcommittee, the president can appoint, okay, Brian, you're the leader of this subcommittee on the charity poor or whatever. So that would be, some of the examples are public relations, community service, fundraising, special events.
Right.
They would preside at the meetings of the general membership, so that's the end of the month, monthly meetings, and provide a written agenda to the secretary of the meetings with the proposed business topics. Serve as the signature authority on behalf of the board for contractual agreements after holding an executive committee vote. So it means if we are going to go into a contract with, I don't know, brass taps to pour at their event, the president would be signing on our behalf.
I agree.
It says to maintain full and accurate up-to-date club mailing list of the paid members and provide it to the other committee members. That one, I would be okay with the secretary doing that. That sounds like more of the secretary's position. facilitate the posting of pertinent information, articles on the club's website, media platforms by providing the committee with accurate information at a timely manner. That kind of goes back to the having the written agenda so that can be posted on social media. To serve as a spokesperson for the Brewers Guild, to assist in distribution and positive promotion of other club publications, to coordinate both internal and external education and training efforts. Doesn't mean that they have to do the training. That just means that they would be the point person. And let's see. Basically, working with the team on any special planning or research. That was the president. The secretary, they would maintain accurate records of all the actions of a community, meaning those meeting notes, foster relationship with external entities. They would record the meeting notes, maintain up-to-date member list in coordination with the treasurer. And that's why I was saying the president, it doesn't make sense for the president to keep the list up to date, because the treasurer is the one who collects the money. So the secretary and treasurer would make sense to work on that together.
Yeah.
Manage external correspondence with appropriate third parties such as the media. I would imagine that this would also be part of the responsibility, would mean that the filing with the state of Florida would go through the secretary's position.
Yeah.
Secretary would preside in the absence of the president at all meetings. And then any documentation that requires the 501c3 status. And then the last one, the treasurer. They would monitor accountability of funds and serve as advisor to the board on budgeting and financial matters. They would determine accounting policies and procedures to provide reliable and timely information. They would serve as an advisor on all budget-related matters. They would provide review to the board or the membership as needed. They would maintain the club banking accounts, PayPal accounts, and other financial accounts. They would collect membership dues and maintain a dues paying schedule. They would be the one to disperse the funds for fees and reimbursements as necessary. And then they would, if the president wasn't there and the secretary wasn't there, then they would be the one who has to preside over meetings. And that's it for the offices. I know that was a lot, sorry.
Okay, may I say something in retrospect? All right.
Fire away.
So right here we have the board. That's 3 votes as far as whatever happens. I think we need to have the committee, which will be 3 more officers who have 2 votes. So that would give the guild, you know, the entire board 5 votes. And the, you know, so each board member, each elected officer or whatever has 3 votes, has a vote apiece. And then you have the committee, which has 2 votes. I think that would keep everything a little better and more democratic.
So you're saying that if the committee has 3 people or 5 people, whatever
all right,
they end up,
the board has
whatever
3
they
people.
end up, they would have what counts as 2 votes on the executive.
Right, absolutely. The board is the president, the secretary, and the treasurer. They have a vote apiece. That's 3 votes. And then you have the committee, which, I mean, basically everybody here gives a shit enough about the guild to put their time in to do this. And this is a way to add 2 more votes to give more people a say on what happens.
So does these 3 people be the executive committee?
Greg, can you ask that again?
Would these 3 people be considered the executive committee and the other would be considered the board?
The board and the executive committee, exactly.
So the only caution I have about that is to have that happen for every single board meeting when there's a vote is cumbersome. I would say on certain things we could have that, but like if it's just a matter of we need to vote whether or not that we're going to give this dog a reimbursement for the ice that she bought.
Then that would just be, that would
the
be the
board.
treasurer.
That would,
Right.
well,
I
that
mean,
would be the
but
board.
for big things.
Okay,
The easy thing about that would be that if all three of the board members agreed, they would outvote the committee.
true.
Well, that is
But,
that.
Tommy, if you're not comfortable with the whole thing just falling on 3 people, what about if we expanded the board? What about if we included, like Paul was saying originally a couple weeks ago, having a vice president and a marketing director? That would now include a board of 5 members. And then you
We don't
would
have that many
include
people.
5.
We don't have that many
We
people
don't have enough people to do that.
that have the time to do that.
Exactly.
I know.
I think on just, we
And
just
you're
need
going
to
to burn
have,
people out.
we need to have, just for big things.
So then it would have to be stated what those big things are determined. But I'm not opposed to the idea. Because if you have got a committee of 10 people, but they only count as 2 votes for the big thing, I think that's fair.
I would hope that we would grow our business, grow our guild members, and we would have some more people to pull from.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
See,
at that point, that's when we amend our bylaws to add those extra in. Right now, we don't have the base to be able to do that.
Yeah, we don't have the people, but that's got to be our main focus. Really, is to get the people, to get people to join the guild.
Which is why you need the funds so that you can do some of that marketing.
So I was going to add this into the new business, but I might as well add it now. To reflect on what you were saying, Rosalind, if there's 10 members upon this committee and they will get 2 votes, then you automatically will assume that they will have their own separate meeting to get everyone together to determine what 2 votes are going to be. What was I going to say?
I'm not opposed to that.
That's just one more thing you have to add on to the plate of having meetings upon
Right.
your regular
Well, see-
meeting, having your board meeting, and everything else.
But that would
Exactly.
be up to a committee. Committees working together anyways. A committee is going to schedule their own meetings and their own get-togethers to do.
Right,
what they're gonna do anyways,
And the
right?
point of a committee is to make a recommendation to the board so that the committee doesn't need to vote on something. The whole point of a committee is to say, okay, this is what we think should happen. Okay, president, vice president, or president, treasurer, secretary, now you vote on it, make it happen.
Yeah.
So basically, have the board and then do special committees and let them tell the board what really needs to happen and let the board figure it out.
Yes.
Exactly, and that's the way it's written right now in the bylaws.
So should we just go ahead and proceed with that and see where it leads us?
I'm okay with starting there.
I remember.
I mean, we can always amend it. We can always
Right.
amend it.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly.
I remembered my train of thought of what I was going to say.
ahead.
Yes, we need to, I think we really need to focus on the bylaws, get the bylaws straightforward and get together. When it comes to the 501(c)(7), 501(c)(3),
C7.
or C7.
C3PO.
I'm getting them mixed up. That doesn't have to be done this year, to be honest with you.
Right.
Well, we do got to get the thing is, we got to get a set bylaw
Yeah, right.
and get it reviewed
right.
before we can proceed with it.
Yeah, the bylaws have to be done, obviously, yes. I think we need to get a committee together, and the number one focus is promoting our club and getting new members. The more members.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother.
The more members we have, the more structure we're going to have on this organization or a corporation, I should say. So
We need members.
yes. So
Yeah.
it should. So if I don't lose my train of thought, three things: get the bylaws done, get the committee board done, which is an odd number of votes, right? And then focus on getting new members and sponsoring new. Focus majority on getting new members, updating our mailing list, getting our dues, and everything like that. Once that's all set, then we can proceed with a 501c3, and then we can go from there.
I
Well,
agree.
we got to get our old members that like Bill Roll. Bill Roll's been a member for years, but he ain't paid his dues, and I talked to him about it. And we got to get, our old members to actually pay their dues before they can, still consider themselves members.
Right. So maybe what we do, maybe the first step is it's May, right? So what we do is
As
go
well
ahead
call
and
it June.
start working on electing, nominating who does what position.
Yeah.
And then from there, we reach out to the former members and say, hey, we're reestablishing the guild. We'd like you to be a part of it. Pay your dues and let's vote.
Yeah, because only a paying member should be able to vote.
Oh, only a paying member can vote.
That too. And only a paying member can become an elective.
Yes,
and only the elected.
You and Paul are both paying members, as far as I see. For the way I see it, you're both paying members. You both have a vote.
Paid yet.
I have not paid, so don't include me in that. So.
Well, you don't get a vote then.
Because I'm where the money was going first before he paid.
I only get one vote. My wife does not get a vote.
Right, before we start talking and losing track of what
I'm
we're
lucky to
talking
get a vote.
about, yeah,
I think Bill's dog gets a vote.
yeah.
Okay, so we're settled on, we'll have a president, secretary, treasurer. If there's additional committees down the road, and is everybody okay with just calling that the board? No executive committee on this?
Yeah.
Just, okay, the board members. So we've got 3 board members, and then there'll be committees further down. So we'll stick with that, and then those people who have been on this call, we'll make sure that we're paid up. Number 1. Number 2, we'll start. We'll consider ourselves a committee for finalizing our club. But number 3, we need to start thinking about who, if we want to stick with this timeline, who we should nominate for president, secretary, and treasurer. What do you think of that?
Know any position they want? Is anybody volunteering?
I think
Get down there. It's 45 minutes away.
Oh, well,
I think you need to be nominated.
And there's a question. To be on the board, do you have to physically be present, or can we do other kinds of meetings?
I see no problem with being able to do Zoom meetings. I mean, this has worked great. I mean, yeah, it's great if we can get together in person, but I mean, if for some reason you can't physically be there, then yeah, we can set up a Zoom. I mean, Paul owns the Zoom now, so I mean, he can set up a Zoom meeting like that. So if for some reason, Roz, you and Brian, you guys are so far away, so if something comes up at the last minute and, hey guys, I can't make it there, okay, no problem. Can you Zoom in with us? No problem. We can put you in that way. I don't see that being an issue at all.
Mm-hmm.
So you can proxy.
We can get your vote one way or another, and we can have a discussion, whether it be through video or in face. That I don't see why it has to be in person.
I agree.
I'm actually in that same dilemma right now with my board members at my work, because my board members are all elderly and we haven't had a face-to-face since January, and they're like, well, can we find a way to do this online, because I'm not coming to the property. So yeah,
I would say that we would want to make sure that all the actual officers or board members are invited, not just a few.
Right. Well, and that goes back to
Yeah,
the
but
membership.
I mean, I mean, other than Brian not being able to hear, Garrett not being able to hear, you've got pretty much the board here.
Well, Tim.
No, we don't. I mean, there's a lot of people that are members that I don't know because I don't have a list. So I wasn't able to invite them to any of these meetings. So
I said
like,
board, I didn't say members.
well, yes.
Executive committee or committee,
But
whatever
the
you want to
members,
call
the
it.
members will be the ones doing the electing.
Exactly. So a
Well,
lot of people don't know. Oh, and even if they don't do the electing, let's say we do an electing, then we put out the notice to all the members. Well, still don't know who those members are.
anybody got any nominations for anything?
I
Or not
nominate
ready
that.
to do that?
I'm gonna review it.
I nominate that we finish these last 2 articles.
Hey, Tommy, do you have
I second that, Ross.
yes, good. Then Tommy, do you have all the dues that tell us who have paid so we know who our members are?
Yes, I have a list.
And where can we get that list?
You want me to take a picture of it and send it to you?
If that's the only way you have it.
I can do it right now.
Okay. You don't have to do it right now. Do it after this meeting.
I mean, it's very few. I mean, it's you, it's me, it's Tim.
Nine.
It's like
9
9 people. Yeah.
$180.
Okay. All right. So some of the last parts of business, we have management, the officers' terms and vacancies. It says that the term of office will begin for 1 year starting September 1st. Somebody had proposed that they succeed themselves up to 4 years and then are removed from office. I don't have a problem with that, but just saying that at which point that they have to step down for at least 1 or 2 years and then they can be reelected, just because, again, we don't have a very wide base. And if somebody gets burnt out after serving 3 or 4 years, but then in a couple of years they want to do it again, I think there's no problem with that.
Should we do annual elections or biannual elections then, so that somebody doesn't feel like, hey, I've been doing this for 2 years now and I'm overwhelmed. So
No.
maybe do like
No.
presidency is,
We're doing annual elections.
She's doing it every year.
Yeah.
oh,
So
Every year.
it's just that if one person gets elected 3 years in a row, they should have the right to step down.
well, then I think you should, as president, you should run for it, not be nominated for it then. Because what if you don't want to do it and somebody nominates you and then somebody seconds you and then now you're stuck?
It says you have to accept it.
Oh, true.
You have
All
to
right,
accept it.
here's my whole concern about that. May I voice my opinion?
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, wait, Brian was.
Nobody wanted to be president.
The idea,
That's why I stepped
behind
up.
this, what we're talking
You're
about
talking
is
about
that
somebody. You're talking about somebody stepping up and running for office. Nobody wanted to run for office. Nobody wanted the job.
this is a different subject. This is talking about if somebody really wants to be president, like they want to control it, they can only serve 4 years, no more.
Right.
And then they have to take a 2-year hiatus. Then they can serve another 4 years. So
Right.
this is the opposite problem. This is like, no, I want to control this thing. So
It's like
that's
the
what-
president. It's like the president of the United States, but then again, you know, the president doesn't get to be president anymore. So.
Yeah.
Because certain
And I
people
think-
would like to be
I
president.
think part of that is because we had fallen so far away from structure and we only had that one person that was controlling it all. So, I mean, I get it. You and Brian stepped up because nobody else wanted to, but I think now that we're trying to areneate and go back to where we started and we have the guidelines and we have the structure and it's going to be a board of 3 members. So it's not falling on anybody's shoulders. So I don't think it's going to be that point where like, hell, nobody else was going to do it. So, okay, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is the 4 years kind of makes the difference between the United States and Russia. Where people
Well, and also,
Things around here.
also you by writing this in there, you have the ability, if somebody's just trying to make it their own personal dictatorship, then you cut them off.
Exactly.
Yep. I agree.
That was my whole point on the committee
Cut that
having.
bitch's head off.
That was my whole point in having a committee that had votes too, and to give more people a say what happened. So no
Okay.
one single person could just dictate the whole thing.
Right,
Right.
I agree.
Exactly, and that's why I like that there's 3, because it has to carry a vote of 2 to 1 for it to go through.
I wanted at least 5, but we got to get more people before we can do that.
So
Exactly.
getting to Tommy's committees, 6.2 says a committee should include 1 or more members organized in accordance to this section and responsibles. Basically, if something needs to happen, you can form a committee. That's the short version of it.
Yeah.
It says executive committee. We talked about changing that to board. And that would be the president, treasurer, and secretary. Let's see. The board shall have control of the affairs of the LPG and shall approve plans submitted by various committees. So this is where it says that a committee makes their plan. So it might be your marketing committee, and their plan is we're going to revamp the website and revitalize our Twitter feed or whatever.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah. And then, so basically they're the ones who has control over it, and the plans submitted by the committees have to go back to the board, and the board makes the decision. Any member in good standing may attend regular meetings of the board and may propose and vote on items of guild business. I'm kind of confused on that, but votes taken at the executive meeting and those general members attending will stand unless a board member requests ratification. In that case, the members of the board will vote to determine the disposition of the matter. So
that is kind of confusing.
So way I'm reading that is, at a board meeting, any member can attend if they're passionate about it, and they can vote on it. The only time the vote won't matter is if the board says, no, we need to ratify this, and then only the board votes will be final.
Yeah, I agree with that, Rosalind. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's pretty
agree with that
straightforward
as
now that
well.
I've gone through it.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I agree.
Okay. The last thing talked about using Robert's Rule of Order, which is parliamentary procedures. I don't know if we're really formalized for that. And after we've had a few drinks, I don't know that we could even do that if we tried. So, outside of saying...
The drinks are done after the meeting, right?
Yes, board meeting first. That needs to be delineated. Is we need to have a board meeting first. You can have a beer during the meeting, but
Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Adjourn. Okay, now we can drink.
Now we can have some fun.
And then they talk
I'm
about
hereby to start the meeting of the Lakeland Brewers Guild. Meeting adjourned. Let's get some beer and discuss business.
There you go. It talks about ad hoc committees. These committees are basically just as is needed. It's not like a standing committee, and they'll be just for the duration. So it might be a committee on the 2020 fundraiser or something.
Well, that's what my board will do occasionally. I have 9 members on my board, but every once in a while they'll recently they wanted to look into possibly expanding our building. Now we're EC Apartments, and do we want to look into another venture? Is there another nonprofit out there we're interested in? So 3 board members got together and said, okay, yes, we'll be a part of this committee. We're going to look into it further, and then we'll present it to the board next time we meet and see if this is a venture we want to do. So that's what we would do. We would have smaller committees within the group that would go out and gather the information for us and then present to the board and say, okay, this is what we found, vote on it.
Yep.
That makes
Ross
sense.
talked about that earlier about doing subcommittees about stuff.
Exactly, and those can always or may always be different, and maybe, maybe you're not interested in being a part of that committee, or, maybe it's going to be 3 people this time. Maybe next time it'll only be a group of 2 that are doing it. The committees will always be interchangeable.
Yep. Hey, we're right at the end of the channel. We have 2 articles left, and they're very short. You ready?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Amendment of bylaws. These bylaws can be amended at any time. The proposed amendment will be posted for 2 months and approved by majority vote of the board. The
Yep.
review date and a revision date will be noted on the bylaws, and previous versions will be archived. Good?
I agree.
Agree.
Amen.
And then Article 8 is about the disposition of assets. Bottom line, it says if the Lakeland Brewers Guild ever dissolves, we would, anything that belongs to the guild, whether it's equipment or materials or anything, has to be agreed upon to where it will be donated.
I agree.
That's it.
Agreed.
But it
That's it.
actually says exclusively for scientific, educational, or community service purposes. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that, yeah. Or has established itself as tax exempt status. Yeah,
They're
I
gonna
like
cure
that.
COVID. They're gonna cure COVID-19 with our gear.
Yeah.
Scientific purposes.
Roz, I know
Yeah.
you've been making notes on some of these amendments or that we went through.
Yeah.
If you would, you know, I'm not a typer. I took notes as well, but if you will send me the version that we came up with, I would be happy to print it out and get it sent to somebody that's really good at that to go through it and let me know what he thinks. And
Okay.
then we can move forward.
All
Are
right.
any
I'll
of
try
you
to get
guys
that
comfortable
done.
meeting in person yet, or are you guys still?
No, he's my boss's father. He was the mayor of Dundee. He's owned a business he just sold for $1 million. I mean, he is so smart when it comes to that.
Nice.
And I see him daily, and I could get with him and go through it with him, and he could let me know if we're good, we're sound, or if we're screwed on this or not, and go from there. He's a business whiz.
I'd still rather meet like this because it's just so much more convenient and easy. I'll have our own beer. We're not spending any money. You know, I don't know.
I agree, Brian, yeah.
I can't wait to get together with everybody at the brewery, and I don't think about we're spending money. I think we got enough beer that we could get together and just drink each other's beer and still have more than we know what to do with.
I make a suggestion that after today, after we finalize everything, that we kind of take a month break to get everything organized and together, to relax for a little bit. And then maybe in July, we can have a gathering or get together, a barbecue or something in July or something. And
I want to have everybody at the house. I'm ready for entertaining again.
I want to go to Bill's house.
Coming to the house.
yeah.
Bring your mask.
Either way, the month of June, I think we should, we've had a lot of meetings in the past couple of weeks, and we made a great amount of progress. I don't want to overwhelm all of us. I think that we should gather what we have after today's meeting. Relax, think about, get to the right people to see if they think that everything's good to go. And the next meeting that we have a vote on if these bylaws are, if everyone agrees upon these bylaws. Maybe it's together, maybe it's not. We don't know yet, But I'm just saying we take a month break and then we get everything together. And at that month, when we have our meeting, if it's together or if it's on Zoom, that we agree upon these bylaws and that we set a date to have a committee elected, and we go from there,
Let's see. I
So-
think
That's fine, but I think we need to get them looked at by somebody first.
Before
we agree on anything, they need to be looked
looked at by somebody before then. That's what I'm saying.
I'm going to hook on to what Paul said and say, in addition to taking a break, maybe if anybody's interested in, getting back to the nominations, if we want to stick with the September 1st date timeline and so on, then we need to go ahead and start taking nominations or applications. Maybe you apply for a position that you're interested in through June. And we also put it out on our website, if the members are checking it, saying, hey, we're taking applications for these positions. If you're a member and you're interested, please contact so-and-so. And then during that, we check, are their dues paid up? Do we have their correct contact information, everything like that?
Okay.
I want to apply for janitor.
All yours.
You know how much beer's left on our tables that after our events? I want to clean that shit up.
That's why if you ever go to Boston and you take the Sam Adams tour, make sure you stand in the back when you get to the tasting room, because they're going to fill all these pitchers of beer, and they put the pitchers of beer down on the table, and they give you little sampler glasses, and you fill your glass and you pass your pitcher on. The pitchers are going to end up in the back of the room. So you sit in the back.
All hell the janitor.
Good tip.
I just agree. I agree with Rosalind. We get everything. Sorry, we get everything organized within this next month. Continue the communication through email, and then sometime in July that we have a next meeting, I think together, depending on the rules of social distancing, which I'm sure will be kind of loosened up before then.
Yeah, sometime late June, early July, especially about the nominations and everything like that. Because if someone's going to be taking over the positions the start of September, we need to know who wants these positions so we can find a way to vote and everything. But
yeah, I mean, we haven't heard from Tim, we haven't heard from Robert, we haven't heard from Brian.
Exactly.
This is the most significant meeting, so.
Yeah, or Garrett.
So there's basically no way we can vote right now.
No.
I don't know if Garrett wants to be part of that.
I texted Tim. I didn't hear anything from him. I talked to Robert Dewey, and I'm about 100% positive that he just doesn't want to be part of it anymore. He doesn't have the time.
Okay.
So I think we need to email all the members that we have on our emailing list to see if they want to be part of it. We hear a response, okay. If we don't, then they're just not part of it anymore.
And we can compare that to the ones who've actually paid.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most important things to me is we get a general notice out there to anybody who has ever been involved with the group, because when we get to the point we vote on the bylaws, then their vote should count as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like we're in agreement. So
action
items?
Go ahead.
Greg? Go
I
ahead,
was
Greg.
going to thank everybody for the fantastic job that Paul did on that research, and the fantastic job that Rosalind did on researching the bylaws. And I don't know that we're at that point, but I think this team is really coming together, and I believe that this team is something that'll carry us in the future. And I really feel good about this team, and I only wish there was a few more members who could not make it today to show up, but I'm sure she's cutting her neck. She's okay.
Yes, thank you, everybody. So to wrap up action items, and Tommy, I don't mean to step on you if you had any thoughts, but action item would be number 1 is to finalize all these notes into the bylaws that we've talked about. 2 is we're going to table the 501c7 for now until we get our bylaws looked at, which Tommy's taking care of. 3, we need someone who will be able to, who knows all the people who've ever been involved with us, so that we can get a notice out to let them know, hey, we're gathering the members back together. We have voting on offices and voting on bylaws happening.
That sounds like that'd be Brian Peterson.
That would be Garrett.
Or Garrett.
That would be Garrett.
So somebody will.
But absolutely, I agree. We got to get the bylaws set in stone before we can proceed on the 507C. Before we can proceed on anything.
Who can reach out to Garrick and Brian to get a note to the membership?
Paul, can you send a recording of the meeting to either one of them?
So the only way I can send a recording is through, only way I can upload this recording is through YouTube. And then the link from YouTube can be sent out through email to whoever we need to send it to, and then they just have to click on it to watch it. So.
But that goes back to the foundation of, we need to have an accurate list of who is on the mailing list and who are potential members. So, and I can't do that because I don't know who that mailing list is.
Right.
Yeah, I have no control of the mailing list, so I don't know either.
Tim and Garrett.
I don't know.
Let's see, was there one more to do? So it was get nominations, or actually get applications for offices, get the list of members together so we can communicate to them, and then get all the documentation to Tommy. So anything else?
No, I mean, I think everything other than, getting our 501c situated is pretty much off the table right now, except for bylaws. I mean, because we got to we lack information to move forward on it.
So we need bylaws, we need an updated email
Right.
list
The
of members.
bylaws, I think we figured that out. So we need to print that out, get it reviewed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can go forward with the 501,
No, we
507c. But as far as everything else, we got to get some information on members before we can move forward, so we know who we're talking to. I mean,
So yeah,
I got a list inside of 9 people that paid.
in order of
That's it.
priority, I would say that number 1, get the list of members. Number 2, get people applying for the role that they want on the board.
Yep.
If they're interested. Number 3 is the bylaws. That's the hierarchy I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
All good then?
Hey, one more thing. If we're gonna continue doing Zoom meetings for our communication, do we need to concern ourselves with repaying Paul?
Say that again?
Hey,
Did
Paul?
Paul have some bills that we need to help pay for?
So
This Zoom meeting, I don't think it's a monthly fee. I thought it was a one-time fee, but he's not looking for any reimbursement for this.
The Zoom meetings are free unless he bought a room to have.
He did, he bought it,
Okay.
yeah, so that he could have a limited time.
But he can do it for anything.
Yeah,
It's just
he's not
it's
looking
used
for
for
any
anything.
kind of reimbursement there.
well, he also last meeting he said that he bought it for the purpose of the Florida Brewers Guild or whatever it is.
Yeah, numerous things. I mean, we're
Right.
using it to chat with family, with you guys. Yeah, we're using it for numerous
Just
things.
checking. We're
So, yeah.
checking.
Yeah, I'm paying for the account. You guys don't need to pay me for it. I don't need reimbursed for it. This is something that I've been looking forward to, is to, have the Lakeland Brewers Guild be more organized, more of a family, be more, let's do more stuff together. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, I don't want this one person to be king of the hill and decide everything. And
Isn't that a song?
King of the hill?
Who does that?
I don't know.
King of the Hill.
Down, 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 down.
I will give any money to support organization, to support family, to support love, to support, us being together and having a great time. I don't care how much money I have to spend in my own personal pocket. As long as we're together, as long as we're organized, as long as we're doing something together, hey, I'm a happy fucking camper. Sorry for my French.
Okay, that sounds like the way we do our beer pouring.
Hey, this is being recorded there, Paul.
That's okay.
It's all right.
So I'm happy, everyone's been saying, but I'm happy that we're doing this. I'm happy that we're getting this together. I look forward to the future of the Lakeland Brewers Guild, or whatever name we want to call it. So,
congratulations to all of you, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
To all of us.
Or to all.
Hey,
of
this is being recorded. In
Yeah,
that case, hey, I did not know him. I did not know what he was doing, and I did not have anything to do with it.
You're funny. So before we move on, and before somebody moves to end the meeting, there was an option for other business. Does anybody have any other business?
I think all the other businesses have been brought up.
All right.
So
So I move to close this meeting and just go to social hour.
I
I'll second.
second it.
Right here, meeting closed, social hour on. So during social hour, what has who brewed lately?
I brewed an oatmeal stout. Just Garrick would be proud because he always tells me I brew beers with way too much flavor